What happens when you remember, I am God? What if God was one of us? Just a slob like one of us. Just a stranger on the bus trying to make his way home. I got through that without breaking down. Maybe you remember that song. I remember it from the 90s. And even then, when I would hear that phrase, stranger on the bus trying to make his way home, I would get weepy when I heard that. And I didn't really understand why. But I have a better idea of why that song just destroys me. So, what is going to happen to you? Maybe it is happening to you. What happens to you when you remember that you are God? I've been sharing a lot of what's been happening with me and what my experience has been ever since I started actively doing CE5 meditation, which I call interdimensional meditation. Because once you move past wanting to make contact with higher dimensional extraterrestrial beings and you get over the experience, the gateway experience, because that's what it is. It's a gateway experience. When you get over the gateway experience of seeing orbs flying around in the sky or floating around in your house or those kinds of things, and you start to then follow the energy, which is higher dimensional energy, and you start to follow that. There's no way to do that without having your reality become completely destroyed and transformed. And I can't speak for everybody, but my experience has, I don't even know what words to use anymore. It has just completely destroyed my understanding of myself, my understanding of this 3D matrix, the universe, my understanding of my connection to the spirit, my understanding of God, my understanding of the gods, my understanding of everything. And what has happened is that I have been given different understandings. And they are so profoundly different than anything I thought I understood about reality, that they are not easily accepted. I've shared about that. I've shared about it in my books. I've shared about it on this channel. You can go back to, if you want to see where it all started, you can go and watch the video, How I Became an Extraterrestrial, on my channel. Look for it in the playlists, specifically How I Became an Extraterrestrial, in the Aliens playlist. You can go and watch that. There was a period of, I would say probably a year and a half, where I didn't tell my channel what they were telling me. I was telling you some of the things, many of the things, but I said for years, and there's just stuff I'm not ready to tell you what they've told me. Even though from the very beginning they said, tell them who you are. And I didn't, because I didn't want to, I did it out of, truth is I did it out of ego. I just didn't want to look stupid. I was struggling with it. My conscious reasoning was I didn't want to distract anybody from what I thought was most important. and I didn't want to make myself a distraction. And but what they said to me from the very beginning, one of the first messages, as you know, is my mantis friend. By the way, I found out that mantises can see in 3 dimensions. We only see in 2 dimensions, in case you didn't know. We live in 3 dimensions, but we only see in 2 dimensions, but they can see in 3 dimensions. And he told me from the very beginning, first he said, we're going to make you king of earth. And I struggled with that. And he said, we give it to somebody else if you don't want it. I said, no, I want it. I just, give me some time to comprehend it. And that turned into, no, you don't understand. You already are king of earth. You've never stopped being king of earth. And then that turned into, we have some very difficult information to give you. It's going to be very hard for you to hear. But we are going to make you king of earth because you were once a very powerful king, and because of the power that you had, you misused it. And as a result, you created the infrastructure for the dark force elites that are doing all the damage to this earth now. And it is your karma to balance it, to bring it back into balance. Now, when I heard that 2 years ago, it didn't really penetrate a whole lot. It was just some information. And since then, I have had some more memories come back to me, and more information has been given to me, apparently because I can absorb it better. That I was, in fact, king of earth during the last Satya Yuga, 13,000 years ago, before the yugas began to descend. And in an immature but well-meaning attempt to keep Earth, and psychologically to keep myself in a higher state of consciousness, I created had commissioned the creation of a lot of spiritual technology with the help and the aid of extraterrestrials in an attempt to keep Earth in the Satya Yuga, and it didn't work. It stretched the energy of the planet because the planet was moving further away from the galactic center, and as a result of that, it ended up stretching the energy frequency, and then it snapped like a rubber band, and Earth crashed in what we now know as the Younger Dryas impact event, the global flood event. And this devastated me. Devastated me on a spiritual level, like my spirit being, not just my physical sense, my higher dimensional spiritual sense. I was devastated and destroyed by this unnecessarily. If I had had the humility, I would have gone, oops, I made a mistake. Okay, let's fix this. But because I was so attached to it, I crashed with it as a form of self-punishment. And I've been crashed on this planet for the past 13,000 years, struggling through very challenging human lives. And I have, for many thousands of years, been unaware of who I am and who I was. I think because I couldn't tolerate the thought of remembering. And I'm remembering. I'm remembering who I was, and I'm remembering what happened. and it's very painful and very liberating all at the same time. And so now, I didn't do it, thankfully, I didn't do it when I read it, but I just recently thought about this song and started playing it. And I just break into uncontrollable sobbing when I hear it. The idea of being a stranger on this planet, that's just the greatest way to put it. A stranger on the bus trying to make his way home. And that's what it's felt like, a stranger. And so the juxtaposition, the idea of God being a stranger on his own creation, on his own planet. And so I no longer have the luxury of indulging in forgetting because I don't want to face it. I don't have that luxury anymore. I guess I could have chosen to not remember. I think if I were to reinterpret what my friend said, he could have said, listen, if you're not ready to remember, we'll give this job to somebody else. We'll awaken somebody else who may have had a different role. Maybe they weren't necessarily, king of the Atlantean Earth Empire. Maybe they were somebody else. Because all that was necessary was somebody needed to step up and take responsibility and do the absolutely fantastically unbelievable work of supernaturally choosing to delete this third dimension and create the fifth dimension. So karmically speaking, this falls on me, assuming I'm remembering correctly, which I'm choosing to believe that I am. It's karmically my job because I'm the one who created the mess to begin with. If I shift to a higher frequency of myself, I chose to do that. This was all planned because this third dimensional, and I know it sounds like a justification, but I do feel this. This third dimensional experiment is meant to be a very challenging, dense, difficult world because without that pain and that difficulty, we wouldn't grow. No pain, no gain. So we needed that. So on a higher level, we could look at it that I volunteered. I volunteered to do this knowing that I might lose myself in it, which is what has happened. I have lost myself in this experiment. So much so that I have been just some stranger on a bus, not knowing who I am, not knowing where I am, not knowing anybody, nobody knowing who I am, and trying to get home, but not knowing where home is. And you can't go home until you remember who you are. And this is what this 3D to 5D shift is about. And if you want to know why, a lot of people will choose to go to the lower hell version, it's for this reason. It's because awakening to the divinity within yourself is going to be, for some people, very painful. I became very attached to my desire to forget because it was too painful and it was too hard on my ego to have all of that responsibility. And unfortunately, that created more difficulty on the planet. So this is what happens when you awaken, when you remember. Your path might be different, your experience might be different. But this is my experience. And so I have made, when I first did CE5, first couple of times I didn't have a conscious experience. I blocked it out. Even though when I go back to the first one, there were lights flying. They weren't up in the sky, they were on the beach, and they were flying around and making all kinds. And I turned it into something else. I said, oh, that must be ATVs. ATVs don't fly around and merge into one ATV and then split into three, and they don't do that. But because it was, it wasn't way up in the sky, that's what I turned it into. So the light beings were trying to get my attention, and I wasn't able to see it. I talked myself out of it. And the second time, same thing. I talked myself out of it. And I got the intuition when I asked the light beings, would you like to come and visit me? They said, we can't. You're too guarded. We're going to have to send in the big guns to crack you open. And that's who this gentleman was. He cracked me open. But I was willing to die. And I knew, I felt there was a real possibility that this CE5, transdimensional, interdimensional beings existed, and when I saw Dr. Greer's films and some of the footage and some of the photographs, I said, I want that. If that exists, I want that. And I made it very clear. I sent out the very clear, deliberate message that even if it kills me, I want this. And I know that I might be resisting it, but I want it even if it kills me. And they honored that. And I'm continuing with that. I am willing to die to have this knowledge. But I get something different. What I get is the experience of Odin. And now Odin's sacrifice on the tree of life is not metaphorical for me anymore. It's literal. Whether he was literally hanging on a tree or not, I don't know. The tree of life could be his spinal column, the Kundalini, awakening within him. But it's the same. It was a life and death experience, and he was prepared to die, to awaken to himself. And the way it's written is beautiful. He sacrificed himself to himself. He sacrificed himself to himself, and it was a death and a resurrection. And then screaming when the runes, the truth appeared to him, the truth of who he was, which is all of us, the truth of who we all are. We are God, every single one of us. When the truth of that appeared, screaming, he took that up. Meaning he was still in the process of, I'm willing to die to have this experience, to have this awakening. And the result of that is that he was given the title of the King of the Gods. He wasn't King of the Gods before the runes. He was King of the Gods after that. So this experience of being, you can use whatever word you want. You want to be the Christ? I think that the Jesus story is fictional. It's not even mythological. It's made up and distorted in order to control people. But the concept of a three-dimensional human being completely embodying the infinite God, that I accept. Odin becoming king of the gods. Rama being the avatar of Vishnu, God. Krishna being the avatar of Vishnu. Buddha being the avatar of Vishnu. This, we could look at it in the biblical sense of it, where there's a Jesus out there, and Jesus incarnates, which means we don't do that. It's not something we get to be a part of. We get to look at it. We're separate from it, and we have to bow in front of it. That's one interpretation of it. And another interpretation is we are all, every single soul is a fragment of the one true God. God didn't create humans like the Bible wants to tell you. Humans weren't created. Humans are atum, the soul. The soul is not created. The soul is self-awakened, self-created. You are a self-created direct beam coming from the source of everything. Again, words don't serve, but God is a good way of looking at it, if you want to use that term. The source. And so we are all that. There isn't any soul on this planet that isn't that. I'll keep it at human souls, because then it goes into a whole other mess that's hard to comprehend. But every single human is that. The question is whether or not you are willing to expand into and embody the fact that you created this world. That you created this world and everything in it. And the person who gets to be the Kalki avatar, the second coming of Jesus, the Buddha, Rama, Krishna, the person who gets to be that is simply the soul that is willing to die to the limited three-dimensional awareness and expand into their original self and resurrect that deity essence. And those who are willing to do that get to be that, as opposed to the biblical version where there's one already up there and it ain't you, but he's going to come down and fix it for you. This consciousness wants to come in and change this reality, change this third dimensional earth into a higher version. And in order to do that, that consciousness has to put itself into its creation. That consciousness has to put itself into the matrix. And it just depends on who's willing to house that awakening. It's not like a walk-in, that comes to you. You have to go deep within and awaken that. If you want to stay in the game, and there's no guilt associated with that. You want to be at level 2, level 3, level 1, you can be at whatever level you want. It's your, it's God learning through his own experimentation. He has to forget who he is. She has to forget who she is. So that the source can learn and grow. So I have my story, and it's just another story. I have my third dimensional story, which I'm not nearly as attached to anymore. I'm still struggling with dying to that every day, but I'm not nearly as identified with it as I used to be. And that's easy to do because, I'm 61, my family's dead. I don't have any relationship or people like that holding me to a certain narrative. I'm free to create my own narrative. And so I have the luxury of being able to do this. We could then get into the whole mind fuck of, well, yeah, but that's because that was your karma and you chose to do that, so you really are destined to be this. I mean, we could get into that. But I've come to find out that time doesn't work like that. I have this, even though I have these memories of being the king of Atlantis during Satya Yuga and being by the way, one of the things that was really interesting and wonderful about that is that unlike now on Earth, everybody's just this 3D human walking around bumping into themselves and stumbling around trying to figure out what the hell's going on. But in Satya Yuga, there were different levels of conscious incarnations. There were people who were just 3D humans, and then there were people that were on different levels, and then there were people that were in and out of different phases. There were extraterrestrials walking around in their physical and spiritual forms. There were light being guides who would come in and out and manifest and disappear and beyond. It was like, Lord of the Rings. It was even more than that. And that's, when we get closer to the source, the frequencies expand like that and more of them can fit together. And then the further that Earth gets away, as the yugas progress, and the Earth goes further away from the galactic center or whatever it is, then it squishes down into one frequency again. And so anyway, this is the kind of head games, but I do have this feeling that when I made that CE5 commitment and I said, I'm willing to die to awaken to whatever this is. I want to know what this is more than I want to be where I'm at, and I'm willing to die to understand that, or completely find out that it's untrue. But I'm determined to find out the truth of this. And I said to them, I'm willing to take this as far as it can go. Now, when I said that, what I talked about what I understood, and what I thought that meant was I was going to get on an extraterrestrial ship and fly around. That happens, not in the way that people think, but it does happen. I thought that's what and I said that knowing that I might die of fright. It might be so frightening it could kill me. But I was willing to take that risk. But they took me at my word when I said I want to take this as far as it can go. And they did. They took it beyond my human ability to experience. And I have been expanded. My energy has been expanded. I know not everybody has the same experiences I do during these interdimensional meditations. And let me be clear, I don't have huge visual experiences. I have some, but it's more like my brain trying to visualize what is happening. But what I do have as a result of this, I've been hooked up. Whatever that means, I don't know. Spirit technology, I don't know. Higher dimensional technology, I don't know. But I am hooked up, and I have direct interaction and communication and energetic connection. So when I'm out there, I can tell when we've accomplished something. Like there have been times when I have verbally said, this is now happening out in the cosmos, and I will feel it in my body immediately. I will feel a huge amount of energy, sometimes very blissful, very orgasmic, and very intense, and not from this dimension. And it's sometimes it's a communication, sometimes it's the emotions of the beings that are out there that we're working with, and sometimes it's just simply the universe shifting, and I feel it in my body. I'm anchoring that. I have anchored that within my physical body. Now, I know that's not everybody's experience, but I want it to be everybody's experience. I want everybody to have the same experiences I'm having. And I'm coming to understand, I'm getting over my false humility, which is that some people are going to be higher in that spectrum and have a higher frequency experience than others, because that's their job. If your job is to be a mother, or something that needs to be a lot of 3D stuff, maybe you won't have as, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to tell mothers can't have this experience. I'm doing a bad job of trying to make an example. I mean, if that's your job in this world, is to stay in the third dimension for whatever reason, you may not have my experiences. That's not my job. My job, I've been told, is to anchor in the fifth dimensional energy and to bring it into this dimension. And I've come to find out only a 3D human can do that, because I'm the vessel through which that will come. And it's very hard to accept that. All of that has been very hard on my ego, my false humility. But everybody's got a different job, and this is mine. My job, I have to pick up the where I was. I dropped it, I let go of what I had, and I got trapped into my own 3D creation, because I'm one of the architects of this third dimensional reality, and I got trapped in it. I got lost. Sorry, it's very painful to say that, but it's true. So awakening, again, all of the superficial wannabe, awaken, become awakened. It's like, people want to believe that. They want to believe that if they just do this meditation, they'll have an awakening and it'll all be okay. Maybe that's the case for some people, but I have a lot of garbage I have to awaken to, and it's very painful. And it's very blissful all at the same time. And the split between me that makes me feel like I'm going crazy is when I have this blissful experience where I am atum. And I have the ability to change this matrix. I have the ability to reprogram it. My third dimensional human has a third dimensional perceptual experience. I'm aging, I have to sleep, I have to eat, I have to go to the bathroom and put on deodorant and all of that. But that's just my third dimensional perception. If I'm willing to die to the identity of Michael Denny, third dimensional person, grew up here, did this for a living, did that. If I'm willing to die to that identity, because that's all it is, it's just a 3D identity. If I'm willing to die to that and expand into my atum identity, which exists, it's out there. I just have to expand into it. When I do that, I gain power in the interdimensional aspect, and I'm able to stay in my 3D body and go out there and change. I've had the question, because I know there are people who have the ability to leave their body, There are some people that, and there's people out there that teach that. There's only one guy that I've seen who I believe is telling the truth. I've played around with it. I don't feel drawn to it. I can't really explain why. And some people have said, why don't you do that? And as I'm sitting here, I think the reason why is because the architect who is going to change this third dimensional frequency has to be inside their third dimensional perception while they do it. Because you have to be part of the matrix and be outside of it and change it. In other words, if you die and leave the matrix, you no longer have a key. You don't have a passcode to get in. You have to look at it from the outside. My friend showed me that, when they told me a while ago, and I said, when is this solar flash thing going to come? And he said, when you decide. And I didn't really know what to do with that. And in one meditation, he said, I want to show you something. And I said, okay. We flew out to the sun, and he went into the sun, which is what I'd been doing in these interdimensional meditations. We go into the sun and we send solar energy to Earth. I just did it because, what the hell? I'll try something. And he went and did it, and nothing happened. And he said, I can't do it. He said, I'm not human. So my job is to stay human while being, as the light beings, have been saying, you're a hybrid. They've made me into a hybrid. Not a hybrid like the abductees hybridization program, which is a real dark force, black ops thing. That is a real thing. They've taken bodies of ETs and they've taken humans and That's why alien abductions, which are my lab abductions. That's why the alien abductions always take sexual fluids and eggs, is because they're going into a lab and they are trying to make hybrids. And so the stories of people being abducted and then seeing their hybrid children later, those are real things. And that's, in case if you've looked into that, those hybrid children are very uncomfortable. They're not happy. It's a hellish experience for them. And those are humans that are doing that, not aliens, not extraterrestrials. But I am an actual hybrid, which means I'm fully human. There's nothing unhuman about me. I do believe, I've been told, that my DNA has changed, but I'm obviously still human. You can see the wrinkles on my face and the gray hair. I'm still human. I still have all the limitations of being a human, at least so far. But I am continuously hooked up to these higher dimensional, all kinds of things. I don't even know what they are yet. And I now understand. I thought that's what everybody was going to experience. Some people are experiencing it. So I'm not trying to say that I don't need to compete. I want everybody to have the same experiences I'm having. But it's possible that some people won't, because they have different jobs. And my job is to be that interface. And if I dropped my false humility about it, again, I don't have an attachment to labels, because I know my reality. I know my reality is that I'm as human as anybody else. I go through the same human things all human beings do. Emotionally, psychologically, I'm just as screwed up as everybody else. I have all the same challenges. In fact, I might even have more. I might be more psychologically messed up than other people. So that third dimensional perception hasn't changed. But in terms of my abilities and my powers, on 3D, I'm pretty much a 3D person. I might be able to play around with my Qigong and I might be able to play around with the laws of 3D physics a little bit, parlor tricks. But when I'm in higher dimensions, when we're doing these interdimensional meditations, the powers that I have are off the charts. They are there. I have more power out there than the the light beings and the gods. I know how that sounds. It's embarrassing to talk like that. It's a lot to carry, but it's true. And I guess what I want to say is that the only reason that that is happening is because I volunteered and I asked for it and I keep pushing to experience it. Now, here's the downside. I've talked to people who want to become God, but what they think God is, they think the biblical God who comes in and does all of these things, walk on water and all that. They think that's what being God in the flesh is, and that's not. That's part of the video game. So having control over tiny little things in the video game doesn't make you God. It makes you part of the video game. So while I'm in the video game, I don't have any more power than anybody else. When I'm outside of the video game, I have power. But the power only shows up when I'm focused on the evolutionary path that humans are and the universe is designed to go towards. Now, that is an open-ended thing. There isn't one path of this is how things have to be. We can create whatever we want. We want to create the new world. We can decide what it is. The things that can't change is that the new world has to be based on love and empathy, compassion, joy, bliss, and unity. All of those things. As long as you're following that basic thing, then what you create, there's no boundaries. You can create anything. I make the joke about, flying unicorns that poop out Skittles. If that's what you want, as long as it's connected to joy and bliss and happiness and compassion and unity and spiritual, expansion, you can do whatever the heck you want. Look at this guy behind me. Look at that. That isn't, they're beings. They're higher dimensional, but they're physical beings, and they look like that. You can be whatever the heck you want. And, he's got a soul, no different than mine. People want to think that, aliens and ETs have different souls. They don't. They have the exact same soul that you do. They just they put on a different costume. It's a cosplay. They put on a different costume. Gives them different abilities, different experiences of limited conscious experience. All right, so I think I've said pretty much what I want to say. But I'm saying this because the more that we do these meditations, this is where it happens. When we do these meditations, and I only really have this experience to this level when you guys are doing it with me. So we need to be doing this together. And apparently it doesn't need to be a lot of people. I at first thought, I wanted these meditations to go viral and there to be thousands and millions of people. I thought that's what was necessary, but apparently that's not the case. But some of you, if you are doing these meditations, you've been called to do it, and sometimes we have as little as 15 or 20, sometimes we have, 30, 40, I don't know how many it is, and then there's maybe 100 or 200 that'll watch the videos afterwards. That's not a lot of people, but apparently it's enough. And when I have you guys with me, and we do this, and we call the light beings, and they come in, the power that I have is beyond anything. And this is, again, it makes me feel crazy. Because I'm just as human as everybody else. Walk down the street, nobody's going to tell. Hey, that's the guy who's changing the matrix. He's changing our matrix. They're not going to know that. Not even going to enter their mind. I got the state of California trying to, tell me I owe them thousands of dollars in taxes that I don't. I've got to do the same kind of thing everybody else does. And so this is the thing, I can't take credit for it. I can't go out and take credit for what I'm doing. And apparently the power that I have, I can't take any credit for it. As long as I'm in 3D. Out there, when I'm out there, I mean, I'm such a celebrity out there. I'm sure you guys experience this too. They treat everybody like that. But I mean, there are beings that show up. I've got groupies that follow me around and from other civilizations, and beings show up and they say, I just wanted to meet you. We've heard about you for so long, and you're so amazing, you're so powerful, and they treat me like I don't get that. I don't get that down here. Unless I'm paying somebody for something, nobody gives a crap about me, except for a few of my students and followers. Anyway, that's it. So, what happens to you when you remember that you are God? Are you willing to expand into it? If you are you willing to die? If you're going through pain, a lot of emotional pain, psychological pain, challenges, if you feel like you're getting split in half and you're losing your mind, you are. You are dying to your third dimensional fictional identity, and normally that happens in actual death. You actually normally have to physically die, and then you're freed from it. That's the easy way out. We are now experiencing it the hard way. We are going through the same awakening that souls do after they die and they leave the body. We're having the same awakening experience, except we're doing it while we're still having our perception lodged in our 3D physical bodies, and it's extremely challenging and very painful. But I'm here to tell you it's the awakening that is coming for those of us who stay here in the third dimension and shift up. The awakening that we will experience will be more powerful. I want you to listen to me very carefully. The awakening that we will experience while we are still in our third dimension will be more powerful and will be more expansive than anything we could have outside of our 3D awareness. And we are the first to do it. We are the first humans. We are shifting to a completely new species, which is not only physical, but mental and spiritual. We are expanding to a completely different species that's never existed before. And so this is going to have its challenges. So I encourage you to stick with it, to stay with it. I'm committed, and I'm committed, same as before. I'm willing to die in the process. Even if it kills me, I'm not giving up. And I am totally committed to becoming that, to embodying that, and to creating this new world. And I hope that you come along with me. And listen, I'm not here to compete. You want to be more powerful than I am? By all means, go for it. Just do what I do. If you want what I have, you got to do what I do. So with that, following the 3D stuff, thunderwizard.com is the website that supports this channel. Go and look at the different subscriptions that are available. My books can be found at michaelwilliamdenny.com. And please, every Wednesday and Saturday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. If you can, please show up for the live guided interdimensional meditations, or you can watch them after they've been archived. That's it, my friends. I love you all. You are the most powerful being that has ever existed. And the only thing you have to do to be worthy of love is simply to exist. So I honor and I bow to the God that you are, and I thank you for creating me and allowing me to be a part of your third dimensional experiment. With that, my friends, I love you. I will see you all very soon. Please take very good care of yourselves.